Hey, welcome back to Hardware Unboxed. Today on the channel we have mixed feelings because unfortunately we are retiring a valued member of the team. A member who has put in a serious amount of time and effort into gathering the benchmark results for us, or at least with me. I am of course talking about our trusty Core i7 6700K test machine. But on the flip side, the good news is we will be introducing a new test machine. I built this thing back in 2015 and it served us very well in that time. And technically it could go on serving us, but I think it probably deserves a break from being the go-to rig to test GPUs and whatnot. And now with the new Core i7 7700K out and about, I think it's the perfect time to upgrade our main test rig. And as it turns out, our friends over at Corsair completely agree. Coincidentally, the 6700K test machine ended up inside the Corsair Carbide 600C computer case, and inside you'll find the original Hydro series H100i all-in-one liquid cooler, along with 32GB of Vengeance Red LED DDR4 3200 memory. Rounding out the build was Cooler Master's V1000 power supply, Samsung's SSD 850 Pro 2TB SSD, and ASRock's Fatality Z170 Gaming K6 Plus motherboard. For our new test system, Corsair wanted us to use one of their cases again, and not just any old case. They've sent over the Crystal Series 570X mid-tower, and this thing is just awesome. It's wrapped in tempered glass, but you'll get a good look at that in a moment. And not stopping there, they've also sent over some of their Vengeance LED memory, their H100i version 2 cooler. We've got the MP500 SSD there. We've also got the Force LE SSD. And the RMX 750 watt power supply. About the only thing they couldn't supply us with was the motherboard and of course the CPU. But not to worry, I do have ASRock's very awesome Z270 Taichi motherboard on hand for the build. So now that I have everything I need, let's get to it and put this new test machine together. The Crystal Series 570X is a beautiful looking case, and I really don't think there are many that could argue otherwise. The thermal performance is also quite good, as are the included features. As you might expect, being that this is a Corsair case, the build quality is excellent throughout, and although it's not a huge case, there is plenty of room inside for high-end hardware and extra gear such as radiators, for example. ASRock's Z270 Taichi motherboard slotted perfectly into the 570X, and already we look to have the foundations of a seriously cool-looking build. I pre-installed the Core i7 7700K processor, and this was done so we could skip this step. Next, I clipped in those 4 Vengeance LED memory modules, giving the system a total memory capacity of 32GB. Since we are going with a blue, white and black themed build here, Corsair has sent along their blue LED memory, and I can't wait to see how it looks all powered up. Before I can do that though, we need to install a few other components, and next up we have the Hydro series H100i V2. Having used the original model in our 6700K test system, this is probably the way I would have gone anyway, even if Corsair didn't send it along. Priced at 100 US or 150 Aussie, the H100i V2 is very competitively priced. For now, I'm going to install the 240mm radiator on the top of the 570X rather than the front, and I might have to see if Corsair can provide a few more of their RGB LED fans to replace the stock H100i fans. Moving on, I dropped in the RM750X 750W power supply. Since this is a fully modular unit, it makes this job about as easy as it gets. Unlike the Carbide 600C that I'm coming from, the 570X houses the PSU on the bottom of the case, and this is the preferred method by enthusiasts. The 570X features a PSU cover with backlit Corsair branding, and this helps neaten things up. For those wondering, the RM750X is an 80 plus gold certified power supply featuring 100% Japanese 105 degrees Celsius capacitors, and it costs 100 US or 120 Aussie. Now that we have the power supply installed and all hooked up, let's drop in the storage. The Corsair Force MP500 480GB SSD slots into place quickly and easily thanks to its support of the M.2 form factor. The Z270 Taichi offers 3 slots, so take your pick. I went with the top slot above the primary PCIe x16 slot. Then the remaining SSD, which is a 2.5-inch SATA model, was loaded into one of the tool-free cages on the back side of the motherboard tray. The Force LE 480GB looks pretty cool here behind the tempered glass panel. Now it's just a matter of installing a graphics card, and this is the one component that will be changed on a regular basis in our Corsair test system. For the maiden voyage, that is the trip from the studio here to the upstairs office, I will install Gigabyte's GTX 1080 Extreme Gaming. As much as I love the old test system, I think this new version, while technically no faster, all thanks to KB Lake's unimpressive IPC gains, it certainly does look the part. I think you guys will agree. Of course, the aesthetics of a test system aren't terribly important because I'll be mostly just pulling hardware out and sticking new hardware in, but I think right now, at this point in time, it does look pretty swanky. For now, at least, I have decided to continue running this system at the same 4.5 GHz operating frequency as I did with the 6700K Skylake system. It is possible to run at 4.8 to 4.9 GHz, and at those frequencies it did appear quite stable, but the issue is temperatures. Even with that Corsair Hydro all-in-one liquid cooler in place, temps were quickly shooting up above 90 degrees. I think for the most part it sat around 92, but did reach 96 degrees at times. And in my opinion, that's a bit too hot for a test system. Could compromise stability, even though I didn't see any evidence of that just yet. But yeah, just too hot for a system that's pretty much turned off or it's on being stress tested, as in benchmarking. And yeah, I really just can't afford to risk the system crashing at all, stability issues and that with benchmarking. It just makes it too much of a pain in the backside. So 4.5 GHz it is for now. On that note though, I do plan to delid the 7700K processor in the system very soon, and when I do that I'll reevaluate the temperatures and then the speeds that I think I can safely run the system at more long term. But for now, using the stock settings, it did idle at just 28 degrees, which is good, but that's just the idle temp. Under load, it did run a bit too hot in my opinion at 72 degrees. I mean, that's certainly safe, but hotter than I was expecting for out-of-the-box performance with a really good liquid cooler installed. And I don't think that temperature is anyway reflecting poorly on the Corsair liquid cooler or the case, because that's pretty much the best temperature I've seen with this chip. Using other liquid coolers and things, it sort of hovers around the mid-70s anyway. So the 7700K just appears to be a hot chip, so hopefully delidding it can help there. Anyway, a big thank you to Corsair for supplying all the gear that made this build possible. Really appreciate them sending over all that hardware, the case, the cooler, storage, the power supply, all that good stuff. And I hope they're just as generous when it comes time to build my Ryzen test systems shortly. On that bombshell, I'm your host Steve, and I hope to catch you on the next one.